Nigerian public service has its own challenges, ranging from low productivity, issues of remuneration, corruption, ghost workers, and what have you. But in recent times, the Nigerian government has decided, and the public service in general, have decided to change the performance appraisal format that it used to use from the normal annual performance review, evaluation and review, to what's called a 360-degree review. And this is a kind of review process that's going to perhaps shake the system. It involves that every staff of the civil service or in the civil service or public service in general be appraised by more than one person. It used to be the boss appraising the subordinate, but this time it's a single person will be appraised by the boss, by himself, by subordinates, and by even people from other departments to get a robust view. This will have very serious implications for good, mostly. However, how do we manage it? Some of the implications would be that, of course, in a way, it may help to reduce or eliminate the incidence of ghost workers, and also reduce some of the problems we have in the service with maybe victimization, or even the fact that the old performance review system had become somewhat moribund. It was just something that was done just to tick the boxes, and nobody wanted to upset the apple cart. Joining us to discuss this today, I have with me a performance management expert, Dr. Murtala Adogi Mohammed. Yeah, welcome to the program, Dr.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
So you heard the review that I did, and just talking about it very briefly, this very important thing that's going on in the service. And of course, we know that the Nigerian government has tried, despite all the criticisms, but they always keep trying to see how they can reform the system. We have the BPSR, Bureau for Public Service Reform, and other initiatives that has come. What do you think about this new initiative now about the performance review? How do you think it's going to work?
Thank you so much for providing me with the opportunity to be here with you and also provide a kind of an input into the new, what I can call the paradigm shift in the civil service structure in Nigeria. I think I read the circular released by the Office of the Head of Service, and it's a welcome development because we cannot continue this way. A lot of billions of naira has been put into the system as monthly salary for civil service. They wanted to ask ourselves very important questions. Are we getting value for money? So if you're not getting value for money, then how can we improve efficiency? How can we enhance productivity? And how can we have timely delivery of results in line with what the government intends to achieve, either within the 4 years or 8 years? So I think it's a good development, but I always ask this question at times when there's a policy.
Yes.
And this is to avoid policy paralysis, like what I used to say. It's the communication.
Yeah.
The primary stakeholders and the secondary stakeholders, are they aware of this reform? Are the civil servant part of the planning process? The key top government officials that are going to be the drivers of this reform, are they knowledgeable about the 360-degree performance management? So there's a lot that needs to happen first.
Right.
At the planning phase, at the inception phase.
Perhaps the problem is that the people, usually in the service, there'll be a few people who are reform-minded. And we know some of the very entrenched issues in the service. And sometimes I've heard stories about when somebody wants to do something that's obviously good for everybody. And you'll be shocked where the opposition will come from and say, forget it, we can't do it. And so maybe those guys who are pushing this one don't want to go through that analysis paralysis that you talked about, where we go round and round the circle. At the end of the day, we don't achieve it. Maybe that's why they want to drive it through the system.
Okay, fine. I think to avoid that, we can start with, it's like this is a concept. And we need to prove the concept, whether it's working or not, or whether it's going to work or not. So we can say, okay, let's get like 6 MDS, 6 ministry department and agency to pilot test this. Like, okay, we want to have a transition from upper system of performance management to using 360-degree performance management. Okay, let's pilot in 6 MDS. like NNPC, NISAL, CBN, and others, that they have a good established system. Because one thing with using the 360-degree performance management is that every civil servant must have a laptop or a desktop.
Oh, really?
Yes, because you must use your own personal username and password to log into the system.
They can't find a way around
No
that.
way.
Can it not be done manually?
No way. The current practice is manually. You are using paper and pen.
Yeah, I mean, so okay, in this instance,
And APA is paper and pen. So we are now trying to transit that. Okay, let's stop paper and pen. Let's digitalize this, whereby every civil servant in Nigeria, as far as we are working with the federal government, if there are 100,000, we must have 100,000 desktop or laptop where you can log in with your personal username and ID. Because when you log in, you will select the people that are going to evaluate you together with your supervisor. For instance, you are selecting 5 staff or 6 staff, people within your cadre, people below your cadre, people above you, in fact at times including even the driver. You select them, then you send the questions with your job description to them. They will look at your job description and now respond to those questions. And when they send it, you will not receive it. It will go directly to your supervisor. So it's a kind of, what makes it 360 is the all-round way of a kind of monitoring, tracking, and measuring performance of a staff, which improve the community, improve the communication of the whole staff there, and enhance efficiency, ensure that they're all on the same page, and it gives everybody a sense of belonging in that particular organization. And it allows both the boss can access its own subordinate, and subordinate can also access its own boss.
My worry is that, this kind of thing, it sounds very complicated, but I'm wondering, how can we help them to make this work, number one, given the fact that the status quo is also not acceptable. For us to stay where we are, complaining, Nigeria is this, Nigeria is that, civil service. For example, now, if every civil servant has to have a laptop, whereas the laptop is expensive to get, however, what that means is that perhaps we're beginning to be able to track ghost workers who don't exist at all. Or,
yes.
Even though they can buy several laptops for ghost workers too and create new work password, but it gets a bit more complicated.
No.
Especially when you have to do biometrics and everything.
Yes, you can even use the 360 performance to eliminate ghost workers. Except maybe Nigeria are very smart people. We're very smart. As you're having a plan A and B, somebody's already in plan Z trying to block you. So maybe they can come up with another way of beating the system. If not, when we have a data visualization platform in each ministry, then when you log into the computer, it told me that, okay, Dr. Mursala Adoji Mohammed has logged into the system. Then at the end of the day, you will be able to track how many people are logging into their system. And by DS, the number of staff that are in that particular MDS. So when it's come to assessment, you will now generate assessment report, performance evaluation report at the end of the year. Let me give you a good example. Let's say Bureau for Public Enterprise, BPE, they have 50 staff. And what is in the paper and pen on the record is that they have 60 staff, for instance. But the number of people that are logging into the system and submit their performance assessment into the dashboard are 50. Then we can ask the question, where are the 10 people? Where are they? Because they are ghost and they did not come in to log in. But only the 50 that log in now will see their report. And at the end of the year, by December, before January, we are going to have a report that will be generated through the use of the software. And the report will categorize the civil servant into 3 groups. We're going to have the green staff. We're going to have some staff that are in amber and some staffs in red. So those in green, they exceed expectation. The staff that are under amber, they are within the expectation, might not likely even meet the expectation. But those in red, they are performing below the expectation. So when you plot the graph, it will show you where your staffs are and what you need to do. And that is where the issue of capacity strengthening will come in. The issue of training will come in. And the training will not be like a kind of one-size-fits-all training. No, it will be tailor-fitted training, whereby the training that you will give to those in red is not the same with those in amber. And the guys in green are amazingly doing great. They don't need training. They only need one-on-one weekly meeting, monthly catch-up, and they are good to go. In a situation whereby in an organization, more than 70% of your staff are in red and amber, there's a problem.
Yeah.
It means the productivity will be very low.
But then people may be afraid that with this new appraisal system, well, the process of choosing is important, choosing who will rate you, because are you going to be giving your friends, or does if it's taken out of your hand, does it go into the hands of your enemies, and then people will complain that the rating was not fair and all. Even though I believe that the HOS is supposed to step out and actually do a lot more clarification of exactly how this process will work. But the problem they also have is that the government is rounding up.
Sorry, what is HOS?
Head of service, I mean.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically that they should clarify exactly the methodology with which this will work.
I think...
even taking into consideration that we're talking about civil service here.
I think this is very important when you mention the head of service, because I ask questions and the response you get determine whether the people that are responding have idea of what's going to happen or what's even happening. This reform is being driven by the Office of Head of Service.
Yeah.
How far have they gone in communication? That is one. How far have they gone in terms of capacity building? Not only for the people within the head of service, but other related MDAs.
Indeed, everybody must be trained.
Yes. How far have they gone?
Very serious.
How far have they gone on the budget? If I'm the president of Nigeria today, I'll invite the head of service. You want to implement this reform. Within 2023, from January to December, if we are to go full-blown, if you are to go fully into implementation, how much do we need? That is the costing aspect. We should be able to have a cost of this reform. Because that is where, at the end of the whole investment into the civil service system, if we put in 10 billion to drive this reform, then after 5 years, we will now be able to look back and evaluate, are we getting the value of the 10 billion? If we're not getting the value, then why the investment?
But then again, the value could be long-term.
Yes, it could be long-term, but we should be able to know if it is incremental. If it is incremental, after 5 years, you begin to see something. When a woman is pregnant, at least by the month 6 or 7, you should see a sign. Whenever a woman is in the third trimester, you should be able to know what's happening. So 5 years into a love of implementation of a new policy, we should begin to see a result. So, but the issue here is that what is the cost of even implementing this reform? Maybe they have no idea. Or maybe they have an idea, but it's not fully communicated to the people.
What kind of numbers would you put on it?
Yes.
Would you put on it?
It's going to be a big number because, you know, when you look at the federal service system, we have so many redundant hard work agencies, commission, departments that they were created during crisis.
Yeah, exactly.
And they were just to solve that crisis. And after the crisis, they remain there.
They remain there.
Yes.
You know what? I'm going to your thoughts. We'll quickly take a break and pay some bills. We'll be right back.
Now, as part of efforts to support Africa's goal of strengthening...
Now, looking at the activity chart, as you can see right here, a total volume of 130...
Inherited a Boko Haram crisis that at that time was restricted to Yobe.
How secured are they? You can see security men with blood.
This is the road leading up to the...
Really, if you look at England squad, you are looking at EPL, you are looking at their names. You are not looking at...
Welcome back to your show, The Nationalist. I will be speaking with Dr. Murtala Dogi Mohammed on the issue of performance management review in the Nigerian public service, especially the new cutover to what's called the 360-degree review system, which is going to come on board pretty soon. Before we went on break, you were speaking about a certain point. Maybe you want to continue from there.
Yes, what I was saying basically is that we cannot continue this way. And that is why I look forward for a leader that will come to Nigeria and organize a technical team to review the Orosanya report. When you review the Orosanya report, you will then begin to know which agency and which agency do we need to merge. There are so many duplication. National Center for Raw Material, National Center for Agri Research, National Center for Timber and Forestry, National Center for Coffee Research, so many National Center for Federal Institute for, so many duplication. And I am not advocating that we should sack people, but we should do merger. We can merge them to enhance productivity.
I personally believe that we can take a lot of people to rural areas to work.
In
doing that, you're going to be trying to revive the economies of those rural areas.
Increase
a lot of people are
IGR, increase GDP.
Yes, exactly.
And going the way of DFRI during IBB.
DFRI, MAMSA of those days. Those were, those things actually worked. You see that since that time in the early 90s, I mean, when I was just a young graduate and so on, till now, we have pushed the local governments and rural areas to oblivion more than ever.
Yeah, you see, this reminds me of I think a chapter or a sub-chapter in the book of Chinua Achebe. There was a country.
Yeah.
There was somewhere where you mentioned the failure of the state and the rise of terrorism. Chinua Achebe clearly stated that the conflict and the crisis we're having in an ungoverned spaces is simply because of the failure of the system, the failure of the government. And I said to myself again, and I added that it is the collapse of the governance at the local government level. The collapse of the governance at local government level led to where we are today.
But the politicians are, they are very, there are some of them, a lot of them are happy with it, because just yesterday, or was it 2 days ago, I read the Minister of Interior, Rauf Aregbesola, reasserting the idea that local governments are not federating units, and in which case, I mean, I've read a lot more to know that that's not necessarily the case. Your federation is whatever you make of it, but if you continue to put down the local government, you have a problem. But back to the issue of this performance review. Do you think this can work for things like the army and police, command and control structure? Can a lieutenant or second lieutenant rate a general?
Wow!
And how will that work?
Oh my God!
In the military,
this is a very serious one, and that is why I said earlier, this reform we can start it slowly, and study the darkness before we put on the light. In the sense that we look at most of this military and paramilitary and see how possible it's going to work. This is a system that was established in a kind of command system. And the top military guys, they are the ones supervising the younger ones, or let's say the junior ones. But in 360-degree performance management, the junior military guys has also the power to review the performance of the senior. And they might end up writing nothing.
Yeah,
they might not write nothing because they don't want to commit an kind of an offense. They don't want to be punished. So in every model, there's always a standalone model and there's an integrated model. So we might go with the integrated model here, whereby we can now review the military guys and paramilitary and see how we can have a combination of APA and 360 and come up with our own Nigerian model that will fit into those.
Because I'm also wondering, like, if you have loads of cleaners, office assistant, people doing, do they also need a 360 degree?
Yes. Provided you're on the payroll of the federal government, you need to be. Provided you're on the payroll of the federal government, you need to be evaluated at the end of the year using 360 performance evaluation system. And that is to know whether you are performing. The first thing to do for you to be evaluated at the end of the year, in the beginning of the year, by January, you need to submit your work plan.
Yes.
Annual plan. And in the plan, there's about 7, 10, 15 key deliverables that the assessment by December will target on. We have a system in civil service that people don't submit their work plan.
Right now.
Yes. A lot of people in the civil service don't. They come into office with no idea of what to do.
Honestly, I know someone that was employed by a certain in a certain ministry in this Abuja, and for 1 year there was no office to go to, no desk, and they were paying salary. I know another guy employed in another ministry, who is somewhere in Lagos now, gets paid every month. They said that maybe the project is not
yes, to
yet.
comment, yeah.
So it's incredible that a country where we complain there's nothing, there's no money, we're paying a lot of people for doing nothing.
It's more of a patronage system.
And the funny thing is that a lot of these people who are paid for doing nothing don't even appreciate the fact they're being paid for doing. It's true. I mean, because if you say end SARS today, let's go and show government how these same people are there. Idleness.
Yeah, and I see. Apart from idleness, is because we are not able to put a system in place of tracking you as a civil servant. The entire civil service system, they might have an ID card. They might have an ID card, but I don't know whether the ID card is connected to a central data visualization dashboard, where whenever something happens, you can track that Mr. Mohammed is working with the Ministry of Health, and it's among people that are put certain fire on certain building structure because of one youth, whatever that they are into. So human beings naturally need to be monitored.
Indeed.
Yes, human beings need to be monitored. Even within the family system, if you allow your wife and children to go wherever they want to go, you come back home, you don't meet anybody.
Honestly.
So the same thing in the civil service system. From the day one they give you an appointment at maybe level 8 or level 9 or whatever, there should be job description, the JD.
Honestly.
So when you have your job description, I saw a lot of letters of people being hired into federal civil system without job description. It's only a letter that said your salary and you are to be.
Is it that there's no work I personally believe there's a lot of work to be done in this country.
It's all about restructuring the entire civil service system.
How come people refuse to see the work? Because I walk down the street, I see that, I mean, if I was in Dubai, I was in Europe, I was in America, the things that people do, human beings do, okay? You walk into buildings, you see so much cobwebs and dirt and everything. So this is work that ought to be given out to people. Even merely just keeping the shrubs and the garden and the flowers and whatever. That's, you know, so I don't know why we are refusing to give out this work.
You see, we don't see them, we don't see those petty jobs as something that we need to hire people to do.
Right.
Yeah, we feel like it's a kind of something that is below the personality of some people. And that is why, and even getting the job into the system is not competitive. See, when you compete for something, you value it.
Yeah.
So you were just sleeping, and there's this position in government, and your father is a friend to the DG or the MD,
something like that.
and they gave you like 5 slots, bring 5 people to take a job on appointment. 5 people will come in and they will give them job. They did not sit for exam. They did not go for interview.
I mean, so these
they did not make PowerPoint presentation.
Our politicians, you know, look, because in the military days it was bad, but it wasn't this bad. But now you have maybe 460 people in the National Assembly. Everybody is powerful. They have their own list. In every parastatal MDA, they wait for the list that will come from those people. If you don't employ their people, you are in serious trouble. Yeah, how do we get out of this in a political system?
Until we reward merit and until we reward competency and until we're able to do away with tribalism, regionalism, whatever, and until we look into even the issue of federal character. You know, I am not saying the federal character should not be there, but the region should come up with their best 11.
Invariably, yeah.
Best 11. If you said this position is for people of southwestern Nigeria, they should come together and get the best 11 in South to come and deliver a result. It's not that because it's a federal character, this position, but let's say maybe the DG, that there's a certain government agency that the position of the DG is rotational.
Yeah.
That if somebody finished from Southeast as a DG, the position will move to the Southwest. When the position is being moved to Southwest, subject them to exam. Advertise it. Let everybody from the Southwest apply and sit for exam. After exam, go for interview. After interview, come and make presentation. After presentation, we do one-on-one meeting and look at cultural dynamism and look at capacity. You know, look at artificial intelligence.
And we have the people.
How do you manage emotions within within a workplace? You know, not a system whereby somebody will come and tell you that we'll just help you to give you this job.
Exactly.
Yeah. So if we want to enhance productivity, we want to deliver result timely, and we want to see value for money of the money we are paying the salaries for this civil service, we must restructure the system. We must make it merit-based, competence-based. We must reward people that have the skills, competency, and character to do the work. But if you continue this way, even with 360-degree performance management system in place, we find it difficult to see efficiency. Let me give you a simple just good.
Yeah, 30 seconds more. 30 seconds.
I ask myself simple questions. Why are toilets in the public buildings, in the civil service system, very difficult to manage? Toilets.
Yeah.
Does that mean that we are not paying anybody to manage those toilets? So until the day you enter any government building and you see the toilet, it's clean with water, that will tell you how the guys at the top are doing.
Thank you very much for the...
Thank you.
Yeah, just hang on a second. It's not time to clear off the set yet. It's been great speaking to Dr. Murtala Adogi Mohammed, and we've discussed some of these very critical issues. We haven't quite exhausted all the issues. Perhaps we'll have to come back another time. One thing I want to part with is that when I went to East Africa some years back, Uganda, Kenya, Rwanda especially, I saw a marked difference between the way they view and manage their public service compared to ours. And sometimes I worry that some of those countries may move ahead faster than we will. There are several issues, including ego, tribalism, and all of that stuff, intervening with true functioning, including past compromises by political leaders that's affecting our public service. Anyway, that's it for today. See you next week.